The courtroom was silent. The judge, a stern-looking man in his 60s, adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. "We will now proceed with the—" "Stop!" A small voice rang through the courtroom, high-pitched but firm. Gasps spread through the room like wildfire. A little girl, no older than 10, had stood up in the back row. She pushed past the wooden benches, her tiny fists clenched at her sides. "Stop this trial!" she shouted, her voice shaking but determined. Everyone turned to her: lawyers, reporters, the jury, even the accused. The judge's gavel slammed against his desk. "Young lady, this is highly inappropriate. Sit down at once." But she didn't. She took another step forward, her big blue eyes filled with something strange, something that sent a chill down everyone's spine. It wasn't fear. It was certainty. "You can't punish him," she declared, pointing at the defendant. "He didn't do it." The judge's eyebrows furrowed. "And how exactly do you know that?" The little girl swallowed hard. Then, she said something that made the entire courtroom gasp. "Because I saw who really did it." The room erupted. Lawyers whispered furiously to each other. Reporters scribbled in their notepads. The accused, a middle-aged man in a gray suit, looked at the girl with wide, desperate eyes. The judge slammed his gavel again. "Order in the court." He turned back to the girl. "Who are you? And why should we believe you?" The little girl hesitated, biting her lip. Then, finally, she spoke. "My name is Lily Turner," she said, "and I was there the night it happened." Silence fell over the courtroom once more. A cold, heavy silence. No one knew what to say, not even the judge. Lily never thought she'd be standing in a courtroom, facing a judge, a room full of strangers, and a man accused of a terrible crime. But she knew the truth, and she couldn't keep it inside any longer. It all started 2 weeks ago, on a cold, rainy night. Lily had been walking home from the library, clutching her favorite book tightly under her coat to keep it dry. Her mom had always told her to take the main road, where the streetlights glowed warmly, but that night, something had made her stop. She heard a sound, a rustling noise, coming from the alley. Most kids her age would have run, but Lily wasn't like most kids. Curious, she peeked around the corner, and what she saw made her heart race. A man, tall, wearing dark clothes, was standing over another man who was on the ground, barely moving. The streetlight flickered, and for a second, Lily saw the man's face. But then, he turned, sprinting away into the night. Lily's hands trembled as she looked down at the man on the ground. She wanted to run, to scream, to get help, but her legs felt glued to the pavement. She took a slow step forward and gasped. The man was still alive. Barely. "Help," he whispered. His voice was weak, but it sent a shiver down Lily's spine. She fumbled for her phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. That was the night it all began. At first, no one knew who had attacked the man. The police asked questions, but Lily was too scared to tell them what she had seen. What if the bad man found out? What if he came after her next? So, she said nothing. Days passed, and then, out of nowhere, the police arrested someone. A man named Daniel Grayson. Lily had seen his face on the news. The reporters said he had been at the scene, that he had a motive, that he was guilty, but he wasn't, because Lily knew the truth. And now, she had to decide. Would she stay silent and let an innocent man go to prison? Or would she risk everything to tell the world what she had seen? Her heart pounded as she stepped closer to the judge's bench. "I have proof," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The judge leaned forward. "Proof?" Lily nodded. And then, she pulled something out of her pocket. The entire courtroom held its breath. What she had in her hand would change everything. The courtroom felt frozen in time. Every eye was on Lily. Every breath held in anticipation. The judge adjusted his glasses, his face stern. "Young lady, what exactly do you have?" Lily's small hand trembled as she lifted the object. A small, silver keychain with a distinct red marking. It glistened under the courtroom's harsh lights. The defense attorney, a tall woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward. That looks like." Lily took a shaky breath. "This keychain belongs to the real attacker. I saw him drop it that night." Gasps rippled through the room. The prosecutor, an older man with graying hair, frowned. "That's a bold claim. How do we know you didn't just pick it up somewhere?" Lily clenched her fists. "Because I saw him. I saw the real man who hurt that person. And it wasn't Daniel Grayson." The accused man, Daniel, who had been sitting silently in his chair, suddenly sat upright. His eyes, once dull and hopeless, sparked with the faintest glimmer of hope. The judge raised his gavel. Order in the court. He looked down at Lily. Young lady, I am going to ask you one last time. Who do you say did this? Lily swallowed hard. Her lips parted. She was about to say it. She was about to reveal the truth. Then, a loud bang echoed through the courtroom. The doors burst open, and 3 police officers rushed inside. Their radios crackled with urgency. The lead officer, a muscular man with dark sunglasses, strode forward and whispered something to the prosecutor. The prosecutor's face turned pale. The judge frowned. What's going on? The officer hesitated before speaking. Your Honor, we may have just received new evidence regarding this case. The tension in the room was suffocating. Lily felt her heart hammer in her chest. Had she been too late? 2 weeks earlier, Lily had struggled with her decision. She had seen something terrible. She had held on to the truth like a burning secret, unsure if telling the world would make her safe or put her in danger. After that night in the alley, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the attacker's face. But she couldn't tell the police. Not yet. Instead, she started investigating on her own. She wasn't a detective, but she was smart. She paid attention. She listened when adults thought she wasn't. She went back to the alley the next morning, standing in the exact spot where she had seen the crime happen. The police had already cleaned up the scene, but Lily's sharp eyes caught something they had missed. A small, silver keychain. She picked it up carefully. It was simple but had a distinct red mark on it, almost like a logo or a symbol. She turned it over in her palm. It wasn't Daniel Grayson's, she was sure of that. So whose was it? That was the question that kept her up at night. Lily knew she couldn't just march into the police station with it. She needed proof. She needed to be sure before she did something that could change someone's life forever. And then, something strange happened. A black car started appearing near her school. At first, she thought it was a coincidence. But then she noticed it again and again. A man sat inside. He never got out. He never spoke to anyone. But he was watching. Lily's stomach twisted with fear. Did he know what she had seen? Was he the real attacker? One day, as she walked home, she decided to test her theory. Instead of taking her usual route, she turned left instead of right. She passed the bakery, then the post office, then the park. The car followed. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She needed help. But who would believe her? The police thought they already had their man. The news was already calling Daniel Grayson guilty. She had no choice. She had to go to the courtroom. She had to interrupt the trial. And now, as she stood there, gripping the keychain in her small hand, she wondered if she had made the biggest mistake of her life. The police officer in the courtroom cleared his throat. We have received information that may contradict the current case. He glanced at Lily. And we need to speak with this young girl immediately. The judge narrowed his eyes. Explain. The officer hesitated. We just received a call from a witness. A new witness. He turned toward the defense lawyer. They claim they saw someone else leaving the scene of the crime. Gasps spread through the room once again. Lily's fingers tightened around the keychain. She wasn't the only one who had seen the truth. The real question was, would it be enough to save an innocent man? Lily's hands felt clammy. The keychain dug into her palm as she stared at the police officer. The entire courtroom buzzed with whispers. A new witness? Could it be someone who had seen what she had? Or was this just another person who had been tricked by the real attacker? The judge's gavel struck hard. Enough. This courtroom will remain silent. The murmur died instantly. The judge leaned forward, his sharp eyes fixed on the police officer. Who is this new witness, and what do they claim to have seen? The officer hesitated. He glanced at Lily before turning back to the judge. We can't reveal their identity yet, but they claim they saw someone running from the scene of the crime. Someone who does not match the defendant's description. Daniel Grayson, the accused man, gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles white. His lawyer, sensing the shift, immediately stood up. Your Honor, she said quickly, this is critical. If there is another witness, then we need to stop this trial until we can hear what they have to say. The prosecutor, clearly frustrated, shook his head. This is highly unusual. We already have all the evidence we need. Lily felt anger flare up in her chest. No, you don't. The real evidence was still hidden. And she had it. But before she could speak, the judge sighed heavily. This court will take a brief recess while we assess this new development. The gavel struck the desk again. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Reporters rushed to the phones. Lawyers whispered furiously, and Daniel Grayson's family hugged each other with new hope. Lily stood frozen. She had expected to be ignored. She had expected the adults to tell her she was wrong. But now, it seemed like everything was shifting. The real question was, who was this new witness? And could she trust them? 20 minutes later, Lily sat on a stiff bench outside the courtroom. Her legs swung back and forth anxiously. A police officer approached her. "Lily Turner?" She nodded. "We need you to come with us." Her heart pounded. "Am I in trouble?" The officer chuckled. "No, kid. We just need to ask you some questions about what you saw." Lily hesitated. Was this a trap? She glanced around nervously. The black car she had seen following her wasn't outside. But that didn't mean the danger was gone. Still, she had no choice. She followed the officer down the hallway and into a private room. A detective waited inside, his arms crossed. "Have a seat, Lily," he said. She slid into the chair, gripping the keychain tightly. The detective sat across from her. His expression was calm but serious. "Tell me everything you saw that night." Lily swallowed. "I was walking home from the library. I heard a noise in the alley. I looked, and I saw someone hurting the man." The detective leaned forward. "Could you see his face?" She nodded. "Yes, but it wasn't Daniel Grayson." "Then who was it?" Lily hesitated. She had been asking herself the same question for days. She had seen the man's face, but she didn't know who he was. Until her mind flashed back to something. An old newspaper she had seen on her dad's desk. There had been a story about a wealthy businessman who had recently been accused of fraud but got away with it. And in the picture, Lily's stomach turned. It was him. It was the man from the alley. Her hands shook as she looked up at the detective. I think I know who he is." The detective's eyes darkened. "Who?" Lily took a deep breath and whispered the name. The detective's reaction was instant. His face paled. His jaw tightened. He exchanged a look with the police officer standing behind him. "What?" Lily asked nervously. "What's wrong?" The detective exhaled sharply. "Lily, if you're right, then this case is a lot bigger than we thought." Lily's pulse quickened. "Bigger?" The officer nodded grimly. "We need to get you somewhere safe." Lily's breath caught. "Safe?" she echoed. "Why?" The detective hesitated before answering. "Because if this man knows that you saw him, you could be in danger." Lily's stomach dropped. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Lily's hands turned ice cold. The detective's words echoed in her mind. "You could be in danger." She swallowed hard. But he doesn't know I saw him, right?" The detective exchanged another glance with the officer beside him. His face was serious. "We don't know for sure." Lily's stomach twisted. They knew something she didn't. She gripped the edge of the chair. "Who is he? Why is he so dangerous?" The detective took a deep breath. "Lily, the man you saw isn't just anyone. He's powerful, wealthy. He has connections. And if he finds out you can prove he was there that night." The officer cut in. "We need to move fast. We have to keep you safe before he does." Lily's heart pounded. "What about the trial?" "Daniel Grayson is still in jail." The detective nodded. "We're working on that. But right now, we need to make sure you're somewhere he can't reach you." Lily shook her head. "No, I don't want to hide. I want to stop him." The detective sighed. "Lily, you're brave. But this is bigger than you know." She clenched her fists. "I don't care how big it is. I just care about the truth." The detective studied her for a long moment. Then he sighed. "All right, but if you want to help, you need to trust us." Lily hesitated. Could she trust them? She thought about the black car that had been following her. The way the police had been so sure Daniel was guilty. What if someone inside the system was working for the real attacker? The detective stood. "We have to move now." Lily's pulse raced. "Move where?" Before he could answer, a knock sounded at the door. The officer opened it slightly, but before he could react, bam! The door slammed open. Lily gasped as two men in suits barged in. They moved fast, their faces blank but their eyes sharp. One of them flashed a badge. "FBI. We're taking the girl." The room fell silent. The detective frowned. "What? On whose orders?" The agent didn't answer. He just stepped forward, looking straight at Lily. "Come with us." Lily's breath caught in her throat. Something wasn't right. The way they had entered. The way they hadn't explained anything. Her instincts screamed at her. She shot a glance at the detective. He looked tense. He knew something was off, too. The FBI agent extended his hand. "Now." Lily's fingers tightened around the keychain in her pocket. She had a choice. Go with them, or run. The detective made the choice for her. "Lily, get down," he shouted. Everything exploded into motion. The detective lunged at the closest agent, shoving him back. The officer knocked over a chair, blocking their path. Lily scrambled backward as the second agent reached for her. "Run," the detective barked. Her legs finally moved. She sprinted toward the door, dodging hands trying to grab her. She burst into the hallway, her heart slamming against her ribs. Where do I go? Where do I go? She didn't know. All she knew was that she had to get out. And fast. Lily's feet pounded against the marble floor. The courthouse hallways stretched endlessly before her. Behind her, she heard shouting. The FBI agents were coming. She had seconds. Her eyes darted around frantically, looking for an exit, a hiding spot, anything. Then, she saw him. A janitor, pushing a cleaning cart near the stairwell. Lily made a snap decision. She sprinted toward him. "Sir, please help me." The janitor looked up, startled. "What? Please," she gasped, her words rushing out. "They're after me." He blinked in confusion. But then, something in her face must have convinced him. Without a word, he yanked open the janitor's closet door. Inside, he whispered. Lily didn't hesitate. She darted inside just as footsteps thundered around the corner. From the crack in the door, she saw the two agents rush past. They didn't stop, didn't even look. Lily squeezed her eyes shut, trying to catch her breath. She was safe. For now. But she knew the truth now. Whoever that man was, the real attacker, he wasn't just dangerous. He had power. Power that reached into the police, maybe even the FBI. This was bigger than she had ever imagined. And now, they were hunting her. She pressed her back against the wall, breathing heavily. She needed a plan, because hiding wouldn't be enough. She had to fight back. But how? Lily pressed her back against the cold wall of the janitor's closet, her heart racing so fast it hurt. She could still hear the agent's heavy footsteps fading down the hall. The janitor leaned against the door, listening. "They're gone," he whispered. Lily exhaled sharply, relief washing over her for just a second before the fear came crashing back. "Who are those guys?" the janitor asked, his voice low. Lily hesitated. Could she trust him? She studied his face, wrinkled but kind, his gray eyes filled with concern. I saw something I wasn't supposed to," she admitted. "Now they're trying to make me disappear." The janitor's expression darkened. The FBI doesn't chase little girls for no reason. He glanced down the hallway. "What did you see?" Lily swallowed hard. "A man hurting someone. But it wasn't the person they arrested. And now I think. No, I know. That man has powerful friends." The janitor rubbed his chin, thinking. Then, to her surprise, he smiled slightly. "You're a brave kid. But you don't have a plan, do you?" Lily shook her head. "Well, that's a problem," he said. "Because those guys are going to come back." Lily's stomach tightened. She knew he was right. She needed to get out of here. Fast. The janitor sighed. "All right, listen close. I know a way out of this courthouse that doesn't involve running into any agents. But once you leave, you're on your own. You sure about this?" Lily didn't even hesitate. "Yes." The janitor studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Follow me." He opened a hidden door behind the closet shelves. It led into a narrow, dimly lit hallway that smelled of dust and old paper. Lily hesitated. "Where does it go?" "Basement storage," he said. "Then to a back exit. No cameras. No guards." Lily took a deep breath. Then she stepped inside. The janitor shut the door behind them, sealing her fate. The hallway was dark and silent except for their footsteps. Lily's pulse thumped in her ears as they walked. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered. The janitor smirked. "Because I know what it's like when the world doesn't believe you." Lily frowned. "What do you mean?" The janitor sighed. "Let's just say, I used to believe in the system. Thought it would protect the innocent. But I learned the hard way that sometimes, the people in power care more about staying in power than doing what's right." Lily chewed her lip. "So you believe me?" The janitor stopped and looked at her seriously. "Kid, I don't just believe you. I know you're telling the truth." Lily's chest tightened. She wasn't alone. For the first time in days, she felt hope. They reached a rusty metal door. The janitor pulled out a keyring and unlocked it. "This leads to the alley. No one's watching this exit. Get out of here and lay low." Lily hesitated. "Where do I go?" The janitor thought for a second. "You got family?" She shook her head. "Just my mom. But if I go home, they'll find me." The janitor nodded. "Then you need a place they won't look. Somewhere unexpected." Lily thought hard. Where could she go? Then, she had an idea. It was crazy. But crazy was her only option. She turned to the janitor. I know where to go. He raised an eyebrow. Where? Lily took a deep breath. To him, she said. To the man they arrested. Daniel Grayson. The janitor blinked. The guy on trial? Lily nodded. If I can talk to him, maybe I can prove he's innocent. Maybe he knows something that can help me, too. The janitor sighed. That's risky, kid. Lily lifted her chin. So is doing nothing. The janitor stared at her for a moment. Then, he chuckled. You really are something else. He pulled something out of his pocket and pressed it into her palm. A few crumpled bills. Bus fare, he said. For wherever you need to go. Lily's throat tightened. Thank you. The janitor nodded. Be careful. Lily pushed open the door and slipped into the alley. The air was cold, the city lights flickering in the distance. She didn't have time to waste. She had a man to find, and she had to do it before the real criminals found her. Lily's breath came in short gasps as she hurried down the dark alley, her mind racing faster than her feet. She was alone now, but she knew where she had to go. Daniel Grayson was being held at the county detention center. She had seen it on the news. But how was she supposed to get inside? She was just a kid. They wouldn't let her waltz in and talk to an accused criminal. She had to be smart. She had to be careful. A bus stop sat at the end of the street, an old, flickering lamp buzzing above it. Lily clutched the crumpled bills the janitor had given her and stepped onto the empty sidewalk. She checked the schedule. The next bus would take her downtown, close to the detention center. She swallowed hard. This was insane. But she didn't have a choice. She couldn't go home. The police, or whoever those men were, would be looking for her. If she wanted the truth to come out, she had to do this alone. The bus screeched to a stop. The doors hissed open. Lily hesitated for half a second. Then, she stepped on. The bus was nearly empty. A tired-looking woman sat near the front, scrolling through her phone. A man in a baseball cap stared out the window. Lily slid into a seat near the back and curled up, trying to make herself as small as possible. The city lights blurred past as the bus rumbled forward. She hugged her backpack to her chest, her fingers still gripping the silver keychain in her pocket. This tiny piece of metal could change everything. If she could just get someone to believe her. She thought about Daniel Grayson. The news had painted him as guilty, a desperate man with a motive. But Lily knew better, because she had seen the real attacker. And now, that man was hunting her. She shivered. Her thoughts were interrupted when the bus slowed at a red light. Then, she spotted something that made her stomach drop. A black car, parked across the street. Lily's hands clenched. Was it the car? The same one that had been following her before? She couldn't tell, but she wasn't going to wait and find out. As soon as the bus doors opened at the next stop, she jumped up and ran out. She darted down the sidewalk, her pulse hammering in her ears. She didn't look back. She couldn't. She had to keep moving. The county detention center loomed in front of her. A massive, gray building with high fences and watchful security cameras. Lily took a shaky breath. She had made it this far. Now came the hard part. How was she supposed to get inside? She couldn't just walk up to the front desk and say, "Hey, I'm a kid who knows a secret about your prisoner. Let me in." No, she needed a way around the rules. Her eyes scanned the area. Then she saw it. A woman, a lawyer, judging by the way she was dressed, was stepping out of a cab, pulling out paperwork as she approached the entrance. Lily's brain worked fast. If she could just blend in with her. She moved quickly, keeping her head down as she followed the woman. The lawyer reached the security checkpoint and flashed her ID. Lily stayed a few feet behind, waiting for the right moment. The guard glanced at the ID, nodded, and pressed a button. The gate buzzed open. The lawyer stepped through, and Lily darted right behind her, slipping through before the gate shut. She held her breath. The guard barely glanced at her. He was already checking the next person's ID. Lily exhaled slowly. She was in. Now, she had to find Daniel Grayson. Inside, the building was cold, sterile. Lily kept her head down as she walked through the halls, blending into the crowd of visitors and lawyers moving about. She spotted a sign, "Visitors Room." Bingo. She hurried toward it, her heart thudding in her chest. This was it. She stepped into the visitors' room, a long space filled with glass partitions where prisoners sat on the other side. Each had a small phone they used to talk to their visitors. Her eyes scanned the room. And then, she saw him. Daniel Grayson. He sat slumped in his chair, looking exhausted. Dark circles rimmed his eyes. He looked up, expecting to see a lawyer or a family member. But instead, He saw a little girl staring at him through the glass. Lily took a deep breath and sat down. Daniel frowned. He picked up the phone on his side hesitantly. Lily grabbed the one on her side. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, "What are you doing here?" Daniel asked, his voice hoarse. Lily's grip on the phone tightened. "I came to save you." Daniel blinked. "What?" Lily took a deep breath. "I know you didn't do it," she said. "Because I saw who did." Daniel's eyes widened. Lily wasn't sure what she had expected. Anger? Doubt? But instead, Daniel just stared at her, like he had finally found the one person who believed him. Then he whispered, "Tell me everything." Lily gripped the phone tightly, her knuckles turning white. On the other side of the glass, Daniel Grayson sat frozen, his tired eyes locked onto hers. "Say that again," he whispered, as if he wasn't sure he had heard her right. Lily swallowed hard. "I saw who really did it." Daniel exhaled sharply, his fingers running through his unshaven beard. He looked like a man on the verge of breaking apart. "Kid, do you have any idea what you're saying?" "Yes." Lily nodded firmly. "And I have proof." Daniel leaned forward. "What kind of proof?" Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out the small, silver keychain. She held it up against the glass. Daniel's breath hitched. His eyes darted to the keychain, then back to Lily. "Where did you get that?" Lily hesitated. Could she trust him? Then she thought about the way the world had turned against him. How everyone believed he was guilty, just like no one believed her. So she told him. She told him everything. How she had been walking home from the library. How she had seen the real attacker in the alley. How she had found the keychain. How she had been too scared to speak up at first, but now she had to. Daniel listened in silence, his hands trembling slightly. When she was done, he let out a long breath. He leaned back, rubbing his face. "You have no idea how much trouble you're in." Lily frowned. "I know exactly how much trouble I'm in. They're already looking for me." Daniel cursed under his breath. "They know you saw something." Lily nodded. "I think they do. That's why I need to know. Who is this keychain connected to?" Daniel hesitated. His eyes flickered with something Lily couldn't quite place. Was it fear? Or something else? Finally, he exhaled sharply. "Listen to me, Lily. If you have that keychain, you are in serious danger." Lily's pulse quickened. "Why?" Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because it belongs to a man who doesn't like loose ends." A chill ran down Lily's spine. "Who?" she asked. Daniel's jaw clenched. He hesitated, like he was weighing whether or not to tell her. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said the name. And Lily felt her entire world shift. Because she knew that name. Everyone did. A powerful businessman. A man whose face was on billboards. A man who had been in and out of scandals, but had never been caught. A man who was untouchable. Lily's stomach twisted. It was worse than she had thought. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes burning with urgency. "Listen to me, Lily. You need to disappear. Right now. Don't go home. Don't go anywhere familiar. If they find out you have that keychain." Bang. The visitor's room door slammed open. Two uniformed officers stormed in, their expressions tense. Lily's breath caught in her throat. One of them pointed at her. "You? Step away from the glass." "Now." Lily froze. Had they found her? Daniel's expression hardened. He gripped the phone tighter. "Lily, listen to me. Run." Lily's pulse skyrocketed. One of the officers reached for his radio. "We have the girl. I repeat, we have the girl." Lily's entire body went cold. They weren't here by accident. They had been looking for her. And now they had her. Her eyes darted around the room. There was no way out. No escape. Unless. Her mind raced. And then, she saw it. The emergency exit door. A split-second decision. She threw the phone down and bolted. "Itchy why?" the officer shouted. But she was already moving. She shoved past a guard, darting toward the door. Alarms blared as she slammed through it. The cold air hit her like a slap, but she didn't stop. She ran, as fast as her legs would take her. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't know how far she had to run. All she knew was that if they caught her, she would never get the chance to tell the truth. And she couldn't let that happen. Lily's lungs burned as she sprinted into the night, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might explode. The sirens behind her shrieked like screaming ghosts. "Stop!" a voice bellowed. She didn't. Her legs moved faster, her sneakers slapping against the pavement as she darted into a narrow alley. The detention center loomed behind her, its alarms still wailing. The officers were close. Too close. Think, Lily. Think. She couldn't outrun them forever. She needed to disappear. Her eyes darted around wildly. A dumpster. A fire escape. A stack of wooden crates near a boarded-up door. There. Without hesitation, she scrambled up the crates, reaching for the fire escape ladder. Her fingers brushed the cold metal. But then, a hand grabbed her ankle. Lily screamed, kicking wildly. The officer cursed, trying to yank her down. Got her. No. No, no, no. Desperation took over. She twisted, reaching into her pocket. Her fingers closed around the only thing she had. The keychain. With all her strength, she swung it down, smashing it against the officer's knuckles. Ah, he yelped, his grip loosening. Lily didn't wait. She yanked herself up the ladder, climbing as fast as she could. Below, the officers shouted at each other. She's going up. Lily's breath came in gasps as she reached the rooftop. She couldn't stop. She had to keep moving. She sprinted across the roof, her mind racing. She was out of options. No money. No phone. No safe place to go. But she had to get out of here. She skidded to a stop at the edge of the building. Below, the street stretched out in both directions. The police were everywhere. Her only choice. Jump. Lily's stomach twisted. It wasn't far. Maybe 10 feet down to the awning below. If she could land right, she wouldn't break anything. Probably. A loud bang. Behind her, the rooftop door burst open. Freeze. Lily jumped. The wind screamed past her ears as she hit the awning. Boom. It groaned under her weight, but didn't collapse. Lily rolled off the side, landing hard on the pavement. Pain shot through her ankle, but she pushed through it. She was still moving. She had to keep moving. Her legs wobbled as she took off into the night. She didn't stop, didn't look back, because she knew. If they caught her, she wouldn't be coming back. Minutes blurred into hours. Lily ran until her legs gave out. She collapsed in a dark alley, gasping for air. She was exhausted, hungry, alone. She needed help. But who could she trust? She thought of the janitor. He had helped her before. But going back there would be too dangerous now. Then she thought of Daniel Grayson. He believed me. But he was locked away. Lily's eyes burned with frustrated tears. She had the truth. She had proof. But none of it mattered if she couldn't get anyone to listen. She wiped her eyes, taking deep, steadying breaths. She wouldn't give up. Then, a voice. Low. Sharp. Nearby. She was here. I saw her run this way. Lily froze. Her breath caught in her throat. No, not them. She peeked around the corner. Her stomach turned to ice. 2 men in dark suits. Not police officers. They were looking for her. Her fingers tightened around the keychain. They were here for this. She had to go. Slowly, carefully, she backed away. Her foot knocked over a loose bottle. It clattered loudly against the ground. The men snapped their heads toward the sound. Lily's blood ran cold. There, one of them shouted. Lily bolted. Heavy footsteps thundered behind her. They were faster than the police. Faster than her. I won't let them catch me. She ducked into another alley, weaving through the shadows. Her chest burned. Her legs screamed. Then, a hand clamped over her mouth. She screamed, kicking wildly. Shoo, a voice hissed. Lily's eyes widened. It wasn't one of the men. It was someone else. Someone hiding in the shadows. The hand loosened, and she spun around. A boy, maybe 16. Ragged clothes, dark eyes, a cautious expression. Be quiet, he whispered. Unless you want them to find you. Lily's heart pounded. Who are you? She asked breathlessly. The boy glanced toward the men in suits. Then, he grabbed her wrist. I'm the guy who's going to help you survive. Lily barely had time to react before he pulled her into the darkness. Lily stumbled as the boy pulled her through the narrow alley, her heart still hammering from the chase. Where are we going? She whispered. Somewhere they won't find you. The boy muttered, his grip firm but not harsh. Lily glanced over her shoulder. The men in suits were still searching the area, their sharp eyes scanning the darkness. They weren't giving up. They wanted her. Or, more importantly, what she had. The keychain burned in her pocket like a red-hot coal. The boy led her around a corner, then yanked open a rusty metal door and shoved her inside. It was pitch black. The door creaked shut behind them, cutting off the outside world. Lily sucked in a shaky breath. Where? A single light flickered on. She blinked as her eyes adjusted. They were in a tiny room. Bare walls. An old mattress in the corner. A backpack and some scattered food wrappers on the floor. It looked like someone lived here. The boy let go of her wrist and crossed his arms. All right, he said, eyeing her suspiciously. Now you tell me. Who are you, and why are those guys after you? Lily hesitated. She didn't know this boy, but he had saved her. And right now, he was the only person between her and the men outside. She took a deep breath. My name is Lily, and I saw something I wasn't supposed to. The boy didn't look surprised. Yeah, I figured. But what did you see? Lily swallowed. A man, attacking someone in an alley. I found something that proves it was him. The boy studied her. Let me guess, it wasn't the guy they arrested for it. Lily shook her head. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, sounds about right. Lily frowned. What do you mean? The boy hesitated. Then, finally, he said, because that's what they do. Lily stared at him. Who? The people after you, he said. They don't just hurt people. They cover it up. They frame the wrong guys. They own the system. Lily's stomach twisted. How do you know that? The boy's jaw clenched. Because they did it to my brother. Lily's breath caught. She hadn't expected that. The boy sat down on the mattress, looking away. His name was Jake. He saw something he shouldn't have. Just like you. Lily swallowed. What happened to him? The boy's fists tightened. They made him disappear. Lily's skin went cold. The boy exhaled sharply, shaking his head. I tried to find out the truth. But every time I got close, they shut it down. No one would listen. No one cared. He looked up at her. So trust me. I know exactly what you're up against. Lily's hands trembled. I don't want to disappear. The boy's eyes softened. Then we have to make sure that doesn't happen. Lily hesitated. But how? The boy leaned forward. You said you have proof, right? Lily nodded and pulled the keychain from her pocket. The boy's eyes widened. Where did you get that? He whispered. Lily hesitated. You recognize it? The boy reached out, his fingers brushing against the metal. I've seen this symbol before, he said. It's connected to them. The ones who framed your guy. The ones who took my brother. Lily's heart pounded. Then that meant this wasn't just a random crime. It was bigger. Way bigger. Lily tightened her grip on the keychain. Then we have to show this to someone. Someone who will listen. The boy scoffed. Yeah? Like who? Lily hesitated. The police were useless. The FBI? She didn't even know if she could trust them. But then, an idea sparked in her mind. A crazy idea. She looked up at the boy. I think I know someone. He raised an eyebrow. Who? Lily took a deep breath. The news. The boy blinked. The news. Lily nodded. The reporters. If we can get this to someone big, someone who isn't afraid of the truth, then everyone will see it. The boy hesitated. Then, slowly, a grin spread across his face. You're not as scared as you look, are you? Lily smirked. I don't have time to be scared. The boy chuckled. All right then. He stood up, brushing dust off his jeans. Let's do it. Lily's pulse raced. They had a plan. A dangerous plan. But if it worked, they might just have a chance. The truth would come out. And the people chasing her? They would lose. Lily tucked the keychain back into her pocket, her heart pounding. Let's go. Lily and the boy slipped out of the hidden room and back into the city streets. The night air was cool, but the tension in Lily's chest burned like fire. They had a plan now. A real plan. But it was risky. If they failed, the people hunting her wouldn't just stop. They would make sure no one ever heard the truth. Lily took a deep breath. Where do we go? The boy, who had still not told her his name, stuffed his hands into his pockets. I know a guy, he said. A journalist. He's not mainstream, but he cares about the truth. If we get this to him, he'll run with it. Lily hesitated. Can we trust him? The boy looked at her seriously. I trust him more than anyone else. And right now, that's all we've got. Lily nodded. Then let's go. They moved fast, weaving through dark streets and back alleys to stay out of sight. Lily's heart pounded the entire way. Every passing car made her flinch. Every shadow felt like it was hiding someone watching her. They had to be careful. The city buzzed around them, but Lily felt like she was in a different world, one where danger lurked in every corner. Finally, they reached a small, run-down building with a flickering neon sign above the door, the Truth Report. This is it, the boy said, knocking twice. Lily fidgeted nervously. If this didn't work. A few seconds later, the door creaked open. A man in his 40s peered out, eyes sharp behind his thick glasses. He had stubble on his chin and wore a wrinkled button-down shirt. His eyes flicked to the boy. You again? The man sighed. What is it this time? The boy pulled Lily forward. She has something you need to see. The man glanced at Lily, then raised an eyebrow. A kid. Lily's stomach twisted. I'm not just a kid, she said firmly. I have proof of something. Something big. The journalist hesitated. Then, with a grumble, he stepped aside. All right, come in. Lily and the boy hurried inside. The office was a mess. Papers covered every inch of the desks. Old coffee cups sat forgotten in corners, and a whiteboard was filled with names, arrows, and circled words. The journalist plopped down into his chair and gestured for them to sit. All right, start talking. Lily took a deep breath. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the keychain. The journalist's eyes locked onto it instantly. For a moment, he didn't speak. Then, he swore under his breath. Lily's heart pounded. You recognize it, don't you? The journalist leaned forward, staring at the red mark on the keychain like it was a ghost from his past. I've seen this before, he murmured. It belongs to someone high up. Someone dangerous. Lily nodded. That's what we figured out. And I saw the real attacker drop it the night of the crime. The journalist's jaw tightened. Then he stood up and started rifling through a stack of old files. After a few moments, he pulled out a photo and slapped it onto the desk. Is this him? Lily's breath hitched. It was him. The man from the alley. The real attacker. She nodded quickly. That's him. The journalist exhaled sharply. His name is Victor Langley. Lily frowned. Who is he? The journalist rubbed his face. A businessman. A powerful one. He's got money, influence, and friends in every high place you can think of. He's been accused of fraud, bribery, and even blackmail, but nothing has ever stuck. Lily's stomach turned. Because he covers everything up. The journalist nodded. Exactly. He looked at Lily seriously. Kid, you just put yourself in the middle of something huge. Lily swallowed hard. I know. The journalist sat back in his chair, rubbing his temples. All right. If what you're saying is true, if this proves he was at the crime scene, then we need to move fast. Lily perked up. You'll run the story? The journalist nodded. I'll need to verify a few things, but yes. If we can expose Langley, we can turn the tide. Lily felt a spark of hope. This was it. This was how they stopped him. Then, a loud crash outside. Lily's heart stopped. The journalist's head snapped up. What was that? The boy ran to the window and peeked through the blinds. His face paled. Black car. 2 guys getting out. Lily's stomach dropped. They found us. The journalist stood quickly. All right, change of plan. We need to go. Lily's pulse skyrocketed. Where? The journalist grabbed a flash drive from his desk and shoved it into his pocket. Somewhere safe. If they get their hands on this before we publish it, we're done. A loud bang. The door shook. They were trying to break in. The boy grabbed Lily's wrist. We have to move. Now. The journalist cursed under his breath, then rushed toward the back door. Come on. Lily ran, her heart pounding as they slipped through a dark hallway. Behind them, the front door crashed open. Footsteps thundered inside. Lily didn't look back. They burst out into an alleyway. The journalist shoved a set of keys into the boy's hands. My car. 2 blocks down. Get her out of here. I'll meet you later. The boy nodded. Got it. Lily hesitated. Wait, what about you? The journalist smirked. Don't worry about me, kid. I've been playing this game for a long time. Lily's chest tightened. She didn't want to leave him behind. But there was no time to argue. Go, the journalist hissed. The boy yanked Lily's arm, and they sprinted down the alley. Behind them, voices shouted. Then, gunshots. Lily's breath caught. Her legs moved faster, pushing through the fear. The truth was so close. But if they didn't escape, it would die with them. Lily's legs burned as she sprinted through the dark alley, the sound of gunshots still ringing in her ears. The journalist was back there, alone, and they had left him. Come on. The boy yanked her arm, his breath ragged as they dashed through the maze of side streets. Lily didn't argue. She couldn't, not with danger snapping at their heels. The black car was somewhere behind them, hunting them. She stole a glance over her shoulder. Dark figures moved in the distance. They were coming. Her heart pounded harder. They turned a corner, the boy scanning the street. Then he spotted it. A beat-up old sedan parked under a flickering street lamp. He dug into his pocket, pulling out the keys the journalist had given him. Get in. Lily yanked the door open and dove inside. The boy jumped into the driver's seat, shoving the key into the ignition. The car choked. Didn't start. Lily's breath hitched. Hurry. The boy cursed under his breath, twisting the key again. The engine sputtered. Footsteps pounded closer. Lily's blood ran cold. They were nearly here. She could see them now. Dark suits. Cold eyes. No hesitation. If they reached the car. Finally, the engine roared to life. The boy didn't wait. He slammed his foot on the gas. The car screeched forward, tires screaming against the pavement. Lily gasped as she was thrown back into her seat. The city blurred past them. They were moving. They were alive. For now. The boy gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. That was way too close. Lily swallowed hard. What about the journalist? The boy's jaw tightened. He knew what he was doing. Lily didn't answer. Because she wasn't sure she believed that. She clutched the keychain in her pocket, her mind racing. They had the truth. They had proof. But now, they were the targets. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her heartbeat. Where are we going? The boy's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Somewhere they can't find us. Lily frowned. Where? The boy hesitated. Then he sighed. My old hideout. Lily raised an eyebrow. You have a hideout? He smirked slightly. What? You think you're the only one who's ever been on the run? Lily didn't argue. She had a feeling she wasn't the first person this boy had helped. She just hoped she wouldn't be the first one he lost. An hour later, they pulled into an abandoned lot on the outskirts of the city. It was dark, empty, forgotten. The boy parked the car behind an old warehouse, then hopped out. Lily followed cautiously. The place looked like it had been deserted for years. Broken windows, rusted metal, silence. The boy led her toward a side entrance, shoving open a dented door. Inside was a dimly lit room. A few blankets, a pile of old supplies, a flickering lantern. It wasn't much, but it was safe. For now. The boy tossed his backpack to the ground and ran a hand through his hair. All right, he said, finally turning to her. We need a plan. Lily nodded. She knew that. But what kind of plan? The journalist had the flash drive. But they didn't know if he had escaped. They couldn't go back. And they couldn't stay here forever. Lily took a shaky breath. We have to get the truth out. The boy nodded. Yeah, but we have to do it right. Lily frowned. What do you mean? The boy crouched down, pulling an old map from his backpack. Look, Victor Langley isn't just some businessman. He's connected. If we go to the wrong person, they'll shut it down before the world ever sees it. Lily's stomach twisted. He was right. They had to be careful. She sat down across from him. Then who can we go to? The boy hesitated. Then, slowly, he smirked. I have an idea. Lily raised an eyebrow. Is it crazy? He grinned. Very. Lily exhaled. Great. Let's hear it. The boy leaned forward. There's a tech guy I know, he said. Deep web kind of guy. He can get us a platform where no one can take the story down. Lily frowned. Like a secret website? The boy nodded. Exactly. It won't be mainstream news, but it'll spread. Fast. And once it's out there, no one can erase it. Lily hesitated. This was dangerous. But so was doing nothing. She took a deep breath. Okay, let's do it. The boy grinned. I thought you'd say that. Then, a noise outside. A car. Lily's breath caught. The boy's smile vanished. They weren't alone. Lily's heart pounded. Footsteps. Voices. And then, a knock. Slow. Deliberate. The boy grabbed her arm. Lily, we have to. Bang. The door exploded open. Lily screamed. Dark figures swarmed in. She barely had time to react before a pair of cold hands grabbed her. Her mind screamed, and oh, she thrashed, but they were stronger. Let me go. The boy fought back, kicking and punching. But there were too many. Lily's vision blurred. Everything spun. Then, a sharp sting in her neck. A needle. No. No, no, no. Darkness swallowed her whole. And then, nothing. Darkness. That was the first thing Lily felt. Then, slowly, her senses returned, one by one. The cold. The faint hum of a car engine. The rough texture of rope digging into her wrists. She was tied up. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. She tried to move, but her hands were bound behind her back. Where was she? She forced her heavy eyelids open. The inside of a van. Dim lights. Shadows shifting. And then, a voice. Low. Calm. Dangerous. You've been a very, very troublesome little girl. Lily's blood turned to ice. She turned her head. A man sat across from her, watching her with a cold, amused smile. Victor Langley. The man from the alley. The real attacker. Lily's stomach twisted in terror. You should have kept quiet, Langley said, leaning forward. But now, you've made a mess. And I hate messes. Lily clenched her jaw, refusing to show fear. Langley smirked. You're braver than I expected. He sighed dramatically. Too bad it won't matter soon. Lily's pulse skyrocketed. He wasn't planning on letting her go. She had seconds to think. Stay calm. Look for a way out. She glanced around. The back of the van was closed. 2 men sat up front. Langley wasn't even worried about her escaping, which meant he underestimated her. That was his mistake. Lily's fingers twitched. She still had her keychain. She had hidden it in her sleeve before they took her, and the keychain had sharp edges. She twisted her wrists, working the metal against the ropes. Keep him talking. Everyone's going to know what you did, she said, forcing her voice to stay steady. The journalist already has the evidence. Langley chuckled. You mean Thomas Carter? I wouldn't worry about him. Lily's stomach clenched. What did you do? Langley tilted his head. Let's just say, he won't be publishing anything anymore. A wave of nausea rolled through Lily. Had they killed him? Her fingers worked faster, sawing at the ropes. Langley sighed, leaning back. It's a shame, really. I usually don't deal with kids. But you, he shook his head. You just wouldn't stop. Lily swallowed her fear. Because I know the truth. Langley smirked. Truth. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Truth doesn't matter, little girl. Power does. Lily's jaw clenched. Then, snap. The rope loosened. She barely kept her face still. Her hands were free. Langley stood. This is where we say goodbye. Lily's heart pounded. Now. She lunged, swinging the keychain as hard as she could. The sharp edge slashed across Langley's face. He roared in pain. Lily scrambled to her feet. The van swerved. The driver shouted, distracted. Lily kicked the back door with all her strength. It didn't budge. Langley reached for her, his face twisted in rage. She kicked again, harder. The door burst open. Cold wind rushed inside. The road blurred beneath them. She didn't hesitate. She jumped. Pain exploded through her body as she hit the pavement, rolling hard. Her vision spun. She gasped, struggling to breathe. Then, headlights. A car was coming. For a terrifying second, she thought it was Langley's men. Then, the car skidded to a stop. The door flew open, and a familiar voice shouted. Lily, the boy. Relief flooded her. She staggered to her feet, ignoring the pain. Get in. She ran, throwing herself into the car just as the van behind them screeched to a halt. Bullets shattered the back window. Go. Lily screamed. The boy slammed his foot on the gas. The tires shrieked as they tore down the road. Lily turned, her breath catching. Langley stood in the middle of the street, his face bloody, his eyes furious. But he was too late. They were gone. Hours later, they sat in an old motel room, exhausted but alive. Lily clutched the keychain, her hands still shaking. The boy sat beside her. We did it. Lily swallowed hard. Did we? Then, a ding from his laptop. He grabbed it, his eyes widening. Then he grinned. Check this out. Lily leaned over. Her breath caught. The journalist had made it. His article was everywhere. Exposed. Business tycoon Victor Langley tied to violent cover UPS and corruption. News stations were picking it up. People were watching. The truth was out. Lily exhaled shakily. She had done it. She had won. The boy nudged her. You're kind of a legend now. Lily smirked. I just did what was right. He grinned. Yeah. And now the whole world knows. Lily looked down at the keychain. The last piece of evidence. She squeezed it once. Then, finally, she let it go.